You have to look at your trials as either something that can set you back or something that can move you forward. It could either be a stumbling block or something to be able to step forward with, to propel you forward. So learn from those trials. You're put in those situations to learn something. So you can let it stop you or you can let it motivate you forward.
Welcome back to the What Went Wrong podcast. I am your host, Tabitha Thorell, and today I have a very special guest with me, BarbieJo Hatch. She is a mom of 5, so we totally relate on the motherhood. She owns her own business. They have a family business. She's happily married, living her life. She's a professional organizer. This woman is on fire. Okay. And all you mamas out there who are entrepreneurs, you know that it is not easy being a mom and being an entrepreneur. And although her life looks amazing on the outside, and it is, we all know it is, right? But we all know that it did not start out that way, and it has not always been that way, right, BarbieJo? So our audience always asks the question, so tell our audience what went wrong.
Okay, yes. It's really hard because from the outside looking in, everything looks picture perfect, right? Mm-hmm. People assume nothing is going wrong. But there was a time in our lives where everything was going wrong. Being married to a farmer, we were faced with 2 failed crops back to back. And usually as a farmer, you are prepared for a bad year, right? And you have a backup plan to get you through another harvest. But when you get 2 back to back, that's hard to recover from. And that's what happened to us. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, we have no money left in the bank account. Nothing. I remember I was taking a little Zumba class and it only cost me $40 a month. I couldn't even afford the Zumba membership for that month. So my sister-in-law had to pay for my Zumba membership. And I remember being so grateful and so humbled. And I was like, we have nothing. There is no reserve. The reserve was spent last harvest. I didn't know what to do. I felt panicked. I felt like, what? How am I going to feed my 5 kids? How are we going to go on living? How are we going to pay the rent? How are we going to do this? And I remember that year Christmas rolled around and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do for Christmas. And one of my friends from church dropped off this huge garbage bag full of beautiful clothes that she had barely touched. And they happened to be the sizes that my girls wore. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you for providing Christmas for us. But it was at that moment, I was actually standing in line at a government office applying for food stamps when I was like, no, we are not doing this again. I do not want to ever be in this situation again. And that's when I made up my mind that I was going to actively do something to prevent this from ever happening again. And so I decided I was going to jump into the entrepreneurial journey and start a business. And I didn't know what business to start. I had no clue. I had no idea. So I remember texting my sister one day and I was like, what am I good at? And she was like, oh my gosh, you're good at so many things. But at the top of my mind, I would say you're an excellent organizer. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe. So I kind of sat with it for a minute and I was like, why not? Let's go all in. So I created this home organizing business. And I remember the first few clients I had to basically beg them to let me organize their space just so I could get pictures and a testimonial.
Yeah.
Because no one knew who I was. And then from there, word spread, things started to evolve. And I realized, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this right. I want to produce a very high quality product. So almost right out of the gate, I knew that I wanted to do high-end home organizing. And that was so scary. That was so intimidating to just present yourself as this expert and charge these premium prices when I had never done it before. I was terrified. Can we talk about imposter syndrome? Like major. major. And then I was afraid of losing the sale because I had so much depending on it. I had 5 mouths to feed and a husband whose morale was just in the gutter. And I could not fail. So I felt like all the pressure on my shoulders, and I was deciding to take this upon myself. And I went all in, and it was terrifying. But I learned that if I got some people in my corner that were cheering me on and believed in me, that made all the difference in the world. And I had a lot of people be like, "Are you sure about that? Like, I don't know that you should be doing this. Maybe not.
Right.
You're not an organizer. You're a mom. We just know you as the mom or the farmer's wife, right? I was not the home organizer. So I had an identity shift where I had to like reframe myself as like, no, now I'm the home organizer. And that was almost like a birthing process. I was like, wow, okay, people need to now identify me as this new person. How is this going to go? How is it going to be received? And that was scary. I was terrified to come out online. I remember blocking friends and family on my social media because I didn't want them to see that I was now coming out to the world as this new person with this new title. And I was terrified for what they would say. And I remember hiding from them. I totally hid from them. But then I learned, you know what? There are people also going through the same journey too. Get those people in your corner and get them to root you on. And that carried me through. And I was able to build up this robust home organizing business where we were charging premium prices. We were in luxury high-end homes. I built up a team of people that were helping me on every job. And it got to the point where I was actually able to sell it. I had the opportunity to sell my business and then step into a new business. And just the things that I've learned along the way, I feel like I got a whole education, a whole business education without having to be enrolled in a university. I learned how to do software. I learned billing. I learned website design. I learned how to run a CRM. I learned marketing along with, the skill of organizing that service that I was selling. I had to learn that too. And so I feel like now looking back, was it hard? Yes. Was it scary and intimidating? Yes. Were there moments where we didn't know how we were going to make it the next day? Absolutely. Did we think we might be, homeless? Yes. Yes, 100%. But I'm here to say that if you persevere and if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you will get through it and you will make it through on the other side and you will always be provided for. And now looking back, I have so many amazing lessons that I can take with me and share with anyone else going through this journey or even with my children. It taught us that not only do we want to we had all our eggs in one basket. So now we learned, okay, we never want to do that again. We need to be diversified. So we did. We diversified our income. We kind of fireproofed ourselves, so to speak, so that would never happen again and that we could be set for life and never have to be in that situation again. But had it not happened, we would not have learned any of that.
Man, I love that so much. Like that was a fire. It's like I have goosebumps. I love it. What you said is so pivotal. And I hope the audience picked up on this because as you share your story, of course, like you can get lost in somebody's story, right? Like we feel the pain, like we see ourselves, we can see you in line for the government's food stamps. And I know that if you guys were face to face with her even more, like if you're on YouTube, you can see her face, but it's like when you have to, as parents, we will do whatever it takes, right? Like you're going to do whatever it takes to put food on your table for your kids. But at that moment when you had to go and like ask the government, which for me is like so disheartening because the government's not going to save us, guys. Like they're just not. And there are systems in place to help those that want to help themselves, but most of them are really just helping the people be mediocre or less than mediocre. But when you go there and you know that you've done everything, like your husband was providing, he was doing the thing. And like, I'm married to a farmer. So it's like, I know the hard work that they do does not equal the income or the worth that they become. Like that is just the reality. And it's so hard because they put money, sweat, tears. I mean, you're talking about, it was hard to start this business and it was scary to start this business. And it is. I am not like denoting your feelings of that, because when you're trying something new and you're exposing yourself, it's very scary. But when I think about like what my husband does or what your husband does, as far as like hard work and really putting the risk factors out there, meaning money, we're talking 6-7 figure equipment and resources that it takes to build up a farm. It's like, I was scared to launch a website, right? And so like, I always look at everything with a grain of salt. And I'm not people who are starting something new. Those feelings are real, and your feelings were real, but they were real because, like you said, there's no other way.
Yeah. I remember being like, oh crap, I really want to do this, but how can I do this? Because I didn't have any resources to pull from. I remember selling cookies and going through the house and taking pictures of things I could sell on Facebook Marketplace, and even donating plasma.
So you had the resource. I love that, because you pulled from your resources. It's like, the one thing I want people to really hear is when you were in line to get food stamps, you were like, I am not this person. I do not put on this identity. And instead you shifted and said, I'm going to put this identity. This is more powerful. This is going to serve me and my family. I will put this on. Does that mean it's easy? No. Whenever we have an identity, that's why they call it an identity crisis. Like when you're in your 40s or 50s or whatever, because you're scrambling for who I am. And, I love what you said. I blocked my family from this, because whatever you hear in marketing, they always say like, go to your warm market first. And I'm like, no, don't do it. Because honestly, the warmest market is like your really close friends and family. And they don't always, I mean, with yours a little bit different because like organizing, but home organizing has really been new since like 2018, 17 type thing. So like, I mean, I know a lot of people have done it before, but it was never a mainstream thing until like the home edit came out. Right. And so people were like, I'm going to pay you to come and get through my stuff. And like, it was kind of,
they had no idea what it was. Yeah. They're like, are you the maid? Are you coming to clean my house? Like they didn't even understand. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I love that you did it anyway, that you were like, I'm going to do this. So it's like, even if I have to block my family, like I'm going to do it scared. And then realizing like, I am this person. And it wasn't that you I want people to catch this. It wasn't that you put on the identity of a home organizer. It was, you put on the identity of, I will do whatever it takes. I'm an entrepreneur. You cannot put me in a box of the farm wife. You cannot put me in a box as just a mom, which I hate that term, but it's like, or mom, it's like, I get to throw the ceiling and be like, I am the identity of, I will do whatever it takes. And there's people on here, it's like, that's the identity. You don't have to be like, I am a speaker or I am an entrepreneur or I mean, that's great if that gives you power, but like, I am whatever it takes. And so elaborate a little bit more.
Love that.
When you did this and you put on this identity and you went forward, I know it wasn't easy for your husband to see you in that role. And I really want people to understand that we love our spouses and I honor my husband and I respect him, but he does not get to determine what I do. And that's not unbiblical. It's not dishonoring him. It's not disrespecting him. It's saying, I love you, but I'm going to go and do this. And so some of you on here, our listeners, it might be reverse. It might be your wife doesn't want you to do it, or your husband doesn't want you to do it, or whatever. Elaborate a little bit on that, because I know that caused you a lot of turmoil and it might have prevented you from moving forward, but like, just share a little bit of that part of the what went wrong, because you turned it into the what went right. But some people are in the muck of the wrong right now. So you kind of share with us a little bit.
Yeah, I did not have my husband on board. He was not like, good for you, go do it. it? Yes. Let's see what happens. No, he was like, it's time to tighten our belts, hunker down. Like, we got to just preserve whatever we have left, kind of a thing. And I was like, no, I need to get out there and fly and find something better. And so it was terrifying for him, which is kind of ironic because being a farmer, I mean, you have better odds of throwing down your money at a blackjack table in Vegas than farming, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's so risky. It is so risky.
So risky.
And so I guess that was just too much risk for him to have me on top of that go explore this whole new world of being an entrepreneur and start a business from nothing, from absolutely nothing. That was very intimidating for him. And all he saw that was as a financial burden. He's like, no, that's just going to cost us money.
Yeah.
And it did. It did cost us a lot of money because you have to invest in something before you see it return anything to you. So yeah, that was super scary. We got in, I remember there was this course I wanted to take to teach me the fundamentals of online business. And they had me on the phone and they were like, okay, this is a $10,000 course. Actually, no, I think it was $5,000. And I was like, oh, I want to do this so bad. So bad. And I was like, I can't do this. I don't have any money in my bank account. I don't have a credit card. And they were like, that's okay. We'll finance you. And I was like, done. I am all in. And so I remember taking out this loan with this course. And the next day I was terrified to tell my husband what I had done. Terrified. And we're sitting at dinner. And I'm like, so I kind of did this thing and committed to taking this course that's going to teach me all these things I need to know so I can go start this business that will save us, right? And he was like, what did you just do? He was like, don't you understand what $5,000 could do for our family right now? That could buy us milk and bread and diapers. Like, what were you thinking? And I was like, you're right. I made a huge mistake. I will call them first thing in the morning and try to get my money back. And he's like, yes, you should do that. So the next morning I called them back and I said, I am so sorry. I made a huge mistake. I said, we just applied for food stamps. What was I thinking? And she said, can I be real with you? And I was like, please. She's like, you, of anyone that has joined this course, need it more than anyone I have ever spoken to. She's like, this is what will save you. And it was terrifying to be like, okay, I'm going to take that step in this direction against what my husband wanted me to do.
Yep.
I decided in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to put my faith in that and go down that path. And that night at dinner, I was so scared to be like, you know how I said I'd get the money back? Well, actually decided not to, and I'm going to go all in. And he was not happy. Like, it caused him a few sleepless nights. And he was like, here we can't even pay the rent. And now you just threw on a $5,000 debt on top of it. Like, he was drowning. And I was like, I promise you, I will learn the skills. I will apply myself. I will be the best student, and I will take out everything I possibly can from this course and apply it as soon as I possibly can. And I did. I delivered on that promise. And it was hard because I had that resistance along the way, the entire journey. And you think your husband's going to be your biggest cheerleader, right? And in his mind, he really thought he was supporting me, but the capacity he had at that time,
he was protecting. So that's the difference. So a lot of women on here, your husband's mind is wired to protect you. Even family members, they're like, I want to protect you. You just got scammed. Like, someone just took your money. But here's the difference between abundance thinking and scarcity thinking. See, your husband was in scarcity because whenever anything happens, a trauma, what he had was a trauma. That we go into the scarcity survival mode. And so he's thinking preserve the resources. And how you break free of that is the abundance, letting go of something. And that's the faith of saying, okay, I'm investing in this. I can gain the knowledge and nobody can ever take that away from me. right? Like the crops they can take away. You can invest in those crops and they can take it away, but they cannot take away from what you have learned. And like you said, I am going to apply it. I am going to do, this isn't just like lip service here. Like it's kind of like if I told you you could put $5,000 in the slot machine and you can get 10,000 out, you would do it all day long. But you are the slot machine. And that's where the confidence, and sometimes you have to prove it to people and you have to prove it to yourself, doing it scared. And sometimes that resistance, that's what builds up that muscle. Because if you wouldn't have had your husband's resistance, BarbieJo, I know you, I think you would have been successful because you're just a strong woman. But you might have just kind of floated into it. I mean, and I'm being honest because I do the same thing. When my husband gives me resistance, I'm like in it. I'm like up late. I'm like proving myself, you know? Yeah. And so sometimes we don't need the cheerleader. God knows what we need. And so you needed that little resistance. And some listeners on here, you might have someone in your life that's giving you resistance. Maybe it's not your spouse. Maybe it's your mom. Maybe it's your sister, your best friend, or whoever they don't understand. Understand that they want to protect you. And we hold a lot of energy with money. And so they think if you release this big amount of money, which actually $5,000 isn't, but it is when you can't pay diapers. So it's all in comparison of where you're at. And so you're looking at this one way. But I love that this is where I do like salespeople a little bit. Because if that saleswoman would have let you off the hook, you'd be in a completely different place right now. So salespeople get a lot of bad rap. Like, I don't want to be sold this. I don't want to be. Sometimes we need to be sold it. Because we don't have enough belief in ourselves. And so stop giving the salesperson a bad rap because they're holding you accountable to what they believe you can do when you apply this. So I give kudos to them because your life would be radically different. So let's not hate on the salespeople. Let's not hate on the marketers because we wouldn't be exposed to a lot of great things. It's what we do with those things that give all that emotion. So sharing that with me because I know a lot of people, they don't like to share the marriage part of it because it's so personal. But I feel like we all go through that. I mean, you've told your husband. I probably wouldn't have told my husband. I mean, Tracy, I love you, but like, I would have been like, I would have proven it first and then been like, when the credit card bill came, then I'd tell him, like, I'd say, but I probably would have given it a few days and I would have been like, oh, this course is awesome. I've already made some money, but yeah, I already made this, But I remember the first time I ever had to pay that. It was just, it was kind of like, I asked for forgiveness later. Okay, that's just, he's totally going to hear this because he listens to all of them. I love you, babe. But no, I mean, it is hard because you want your spouse's approval. And I feel like in a marriage, it's like that vulnerability where they can take you down. And so it's like, you don't want to tiptoe. And I think you should always be honest with your husband. And guys, I am honest with my husband. My husband knows everything, but like, sometimes it's like it's like, I do this and ask for forgiveness later. And that's kind of what you did. It's like, I'm telling you, but like, I just want your support. And sometimes I tell my husband that I'm like, I just want your support. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to understand it. And with being farmers, there's a lot of things that he does that I just have to support him. And I do. I don't understand it. I don't agree with it always, but I support him. And so I just ask for that same back because I'm like, it's all relative, right? So what kind of parting words do you want to give our audience? Like what has, through all these trials and tribulations, and now I know you own a gym and you got, your husband's farming's back on track and you're maybe wanting to do some real estate, get in my group, doing, things to set your family up. But what are some parting words? And then where can our audience find it? I will have all links in the description, but if there's anything you want to share.
Yeah, I say you have to look at your trials as either something that can set you back or something that can move you forward. It could either be a stumbling block or something to be able to step forward with, to propel you forward. So learn from those trials. You're put in those situations to learn something. So you can let it stop you or you can let it motivate you forward. Because I believe everything in life is for you. It's something you need to experience, something you need to go through to experience. What is that lesson? Can you look back and see what was that thing I was supposed to learn? What was that thing? And for me, it was I needed to learn to trust myself, to believe in my ability to do something hard. And now I have a skill set that I can apply to this other business, this gym now that we own. We own this franchise. And I can even help my husband's farming with all the skills that I've learned. Mm-hmm. And now we're starting to diversify our income. We're investing in other things. And I would not have ever seen that vision had I not had to and been forced out of that little box that I was living in. So just trust. You have to put faith in every footstep.
Isn't it crazy that your husband looked at that course and was like, how dare you spend that? But we will spend 6 figures on a college education for 4 years for students. We actually promote it. And a lot of times they get out of college and they don't even have skill sets that they can. Some of them do, some of them don't. And it's like what you got from that $5,000 course. That's why I said it wasn't that much. Because when you compare it to other education, other things, it's like, that's a drop in a bucket. And that's going to give you stuff you can apply now. You don't have to wait 4 years. So that was one thing I just had to interject, because that is such an important piece. When people think about like, what went wrong, a lot of times I think I invested all this money into this thing and that's what went wrong. But if you were able to gain knowledge and apply from it, did it really? Was it really? So I love that. Trust yourself, trust the process. I am the same. Like I am all the same. We will put all of BarbieJo's social handles, what she has going on. I know she's owning a gym, doing all her things. You guys, I know you can catch her on social media, and we'll put the links in the description. Thank you so much, BarbieJo. Thank you, audience, for listening. And remember, if you are in the what went wrong, if you're in the muck of it right now, remember, with the right mindset and perseverance, the what went wrong will lead to the what went right. Until next time. Bye, guys.